no layoff. We stay on the story, the payoff. It's 24/7 football at your fingertips. Watch, read, or listen. Blitzalytics bringing it. Blitzalytics proudly presents Jack and George. Welcome to the Blitz. Welcome to the Blitz, y'all.
Welcome into a special edition of the Blitz Breakdown. I couldn't be more excited for this podcast. So, to start it off, I have not one but two special guests coming in from Blitzalytics.com. Mr. Roy Countryman, who is our AAF correspondent. He writes for the Lot Impact Trophy. He does all kinds of things for Blitzalytics.com. Mr. Roy Countryman, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing splendid. Thank you for having me on as a guest. And you know what? I'm okay being second fiddle to the other gentleman that we're going to have on.
All right. So, we have some breaking news. Blitzalytics has Kurt Warner coming onto the podcast today to talk about the AAF. He was officially announced as the commentator for the AAF's quarterback draft, which is going to be coming up November 27th, next Tuesday. So please tune into that. We will be doing a live commentary as well as Mr. Kurt Warner. So we will be covering that. So please tune in for that if you are interested in the AAF. So let's break down why this got started, what this exactly is for the people that might be listening and don't know a whole lot about the AAF, because it hasn't been covered by the media masses. So the American Alliance of Football is the newly founded developmental league, not to the NFL necessarily, but possibly. But it's definitely going to be a developmental league and a minor league that's been needed for so many years. So please, let the fans know, let everyone know how this exactly came about.
The Alliance of American Football actually started from basically a conversation between Bill Polian and one of the founding fathers' sons of the XFL. Charlie Ebersol. Charlie Ebersol is the son of the great Dick Ebersol. He was a longtime correspondent for the NFL, one of the announcers through CBS, and Charlie decided to take up the mantle and try to open up a seasonal league that would help develop the multiple-time recipient of Executive of the Year in the NFL, as well as building up the franchises, both back in the day of the Buffalo Bills and their Super Bowl runs, from whenever Carolina Panthers came in as an expansion team. He built them from the ground up, as well as drafting Peyton Manning and going through all the different circumstances with him in Indianapolis. But it's not just him. He has other former NFL coaches and players that are helping the league get some name notoriety, but also coming in for good reason, and they're trying to come in and help the game out and nurture some talent that maybe slipped through the cracks, from Troy Polamalu to Hines Ward to Justin Tuck, even Jared Allen, and some of the coaches, ex-NFL head coaches like Mike Martz and Mike Singletary, and even ex-players that are getting their first time cutting their teeth as positional coaches. You have Michael Vick as an offensive coordinator, or even John Kitna. And we have Carnell Cadillac Williams as a running back coach for one of the teams. So they're trying to fill a niche. They're not trying to compete with the NFL. They're starting February 9th, the week right after the Super Bowl. So if they can succeed, I believe, in a year or two and be profitable, I don't think it's outside the realm that the NFL would maybe help them out a little bit and maybe find some sort of an allotment system, almost like the NFL Europe, to help with their product on the field in the NFL, but also as a separate entity to where they're not the ones producing it. So there's a lot of things going on. They have some different roles and such, different from what the NFL system is, and I'm sure we're going to delve into them here.
Yeah, so before we get going, people that are interested and wondering how the format of the league is going to be, as well as where these teams might be, I will go through really quick the list. We have the San Diego Fleet, the Birmingham Iron, Arizona Hotshots, Orlando Apollos, the Atlanta Legends, the Salt Lake City Stallions, the Memphis Express, and then San Antonio Commanders. So they're spread out across the United States. There's only 8 teams total, but it is very excited. So you break down exactly how it goes about, how they collect teams, or how the regions are broken down.
Basically, for player allotment, they have a very unique style. They tried to hit some major city markets that were overlooked or used to be NFL cities. And they're also the allocating style. Let me get back to that. They have a unique way of filling talent. It's not open free agency, being that it is a startup league. They basically allot it based, first of all, on where you went to college. And it's wherever your closest vicinity is to one of the teams. They have certain colleges that are allotted to each team. Then it also goes, if you're not on one of the lists of the colleges, it goes on to step 2. Step 2 moves on to where you might have played in the NFL or the Canadian Football League. Each one of the teams are allotted 4 or more teams from the NFL or the CFL, and then those teams that you played for get put on each one of them teams. So, and if you're not within one of them 2 parameters, you go straight into basically unrestricted free agency, and you're open for all teams to sign you to a contract. The contracts in the AAF, I believe, are based like out of a 3-year type deal for around $250,000. They do include a clause that allows you to get out if an NFL team would like to sign you to a deal and bring them to an NFL camp, because that's what this whole league is about, is try to get second chances for them players that may have fell through the cracks. It gives them a chance to get reps, NFL quality coaching, or equal to high caliber college coaching, and reps. That's the biggest thing is that was missing in the whole football spectrum, is a place, especially for quarterbacks, but also for skill position players and defensive players, is to get them live reps in game time action. That's the only way you can really get better as a player. And especially with the coaches they have in place, I believe this is going to be a big time bust, for people that want to get a second chance. They're going to want to sign with this league, especially with the availability to sign a contract in the NFL if you have interest. But I think this is going to be a very successful foray.
Yeah, I'm so excited. There's just a star-studded cast of of head coaches, from Tim Lewis, Brad Childress, Mike Singletary, Steve Spurrier, Dennis Erickson, Mike Riley. I mean, the list goes on and on. Mike Martz. I couldn't be more excited for this, and I think this as a whole is only going to help the quality of football in general. Now giving reps to players who needed it, to star athletes that just did not have a niche or didn't have the fit just yet. They weren't molded into the player that they could possibly be. This gives players like that a second chance and an opportunity to show what they're worth. And so this is going from the top down, or from the bottom up, I should say. This is going to make the quality of football in the NFL and quality of football everywhere better. Now, do you think this is going to be a main competitor with the CFL? Do you think this could possibly dry up the well for teams for players that are going north of the border to now have another opportunity elsewhere? Or do you think that there's room for everybody to be able to grow equally and share the wealth, I should say?
I do think that it is going to hinder some players and their interest in wanting to go north of the border, because there was already somewhat a lack of, if you believe you have a chance of maybe getting a training camp spot in the NFL, I believe you're going to be more apt to stay inside the United States and take a deal with the Alliance. If you think you can make a roster there and be able to stay almost close to home and be able to get that NFL chance, because you would have, even over top of that, with going to the Canadian League, you have to get your visa. You got to make sure you even make their roster as well. And in the CFL, they can't just go straight with a all, American-based football team. They have rules in place where they have to start so many Canadian League players. And I believe you're going to see more guys that you might see go north of the border, might stay a little bit closer to the vest and at home to be able to get that opportunity to work in their own backyard, and with coaches that might have more NFL experience than north of the border. So I'm not saying that you might not get some players going up there, but I do believe that it is going to hurt their ability to recruit players up to that kind of a market.
All right, so I've heard some naysayers talk about that football shouldn't be a year-round sport, that it's just too much, that the average fan just may not be interested in year-round football. This literally starts a week after the Super Bowl. What do you say to those naysayers, the quote-unquote haters that don't think that football should be somewhat of a year-round league, that it's not meant to be played in the springtime.
I'm going to tell them that they're not real football fans. If you don't believe that there should be football in the off months after the Super Bowl, then why does everybody tune into the NFL Combine, to the Senior Bowl, to the East-West Shrine Games, the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl? All the bowl games like that in the lead up to the draft is one of the biggest markets for the NFL, and it's one of the biggest money makers when it comes to the draft. Everybody now is either going to the press, media, PDF, TV, everything along that lines with the draft process. This is just going to fill the niche of actually watching quality football and still getting your draft market on that side. It's, to me, I couldn't ask for anything better, especially the way the Alliance of American Football is all about fan engagement. That is one of their biggest platforms they're trying to hit, from fantasy football and the advancements they're trying to make to that, to betting now with open gambling in most states, as well as updated stats in real time with next-gen stats, I believe, with the Alliance. They are all about fan engagement, so I believe that them people that say that football should not be a year-round sport should maybe go watch spring training somewhere.
I couldn't agree more. All right, so can you speak on the evolution of the game, the new rules, and how this is going to be a little bit more digestible for people to watch?
So they're going to try to cut down on a lot of the advertisements, I believe, in between plays, try to make it a quicker paced game. They are making no kickoffs. They're going to eliminate that, and it'll be only starting at the 25-yard line. If you need to go for an onside kick, which a lot of people is arguing they can't take the kickoff out in the NFL game, they're going to start you at your own 35, and they're going to begin to play as if you're 4th and 10. So that small percentage of play that you've seen on onside kicks, as well as the injuries that it led to of people blowing each other up trying to get to the ball, a little bit more safer for the players and a little bit more excitement for the fan of football. Also, the play clock is going to be down to 30 seconds into this game. And also, if you score a touchdown in this game, there'll be no kick for a point after attempt. You must go for 2. So we're going to see a lot of oddly scored games compared to NFL with 2-point conversions and whatnot, but you're going to get a lot of more excitement on a down-to-down basis, I believe.
All right. I think that's definitely necessary. Less kicking, more going for it, more 4th down attempts. This is going to be a lot more fun to watch. And I think the quality of play is going to surprise some people with how many all-star cast coaches that we just talked about are going to be involved in this. All right, so let's break down these rosters. Who on these teams currently excites you? And then let's get into this QB draft that's going to be coming up next Tuesday, November 27th.
One of my biggest players is a position skill player. I believe he's for the Arizona Hotshots, and he's a little bowling ball type running back that will remind you of Maurice Jones-Drew. His name's Demario Richard. I'm a big fan of his. There's a lot of intriguing guys from the skill positions. I can't name a lot of them off the top of my head, and a lot of defensive players that are pretty interesting. So we are going to be having a skill position preview to go along with a lot of our quarterbacks scouting reports that we're going to be parlaying with our draft coverage here of the Alliance Protector picks. So stay tuned for that.
All right, now break down this QB draft for me, and what makes this different from any other draft?
Well, this is groundbreaking type effort here. First of all, you already have quarterbacks that are signed and that have been allotted to the teams based upon their allocation process. But what makes this unique is you start off, you have, I believe it's 4 rounds, but before the 4 rounds start, you have, in order, you have to either choose to protect one of the ones that's already been allotted to your team. If you're feeling very comfortable with him and your system and your offensive coordinators, quarterback coaches, and the way your head coach's vision is, you're going to want to protect them. Well, if you do protect them, you will have to give up your first round draft pick. You will be passed over in that round because you chose to protect one of your own players. If you choose to pick, you have to wait till everybody gets their chance through the protection round. Then any of the quarterbacks that are not in the protected round, you have a chance on the open poll to select them as a draft member, just as you would like in the NFL draft, and put them on your team. So if you're very comfortable with a guy that's already in your house, you're going to want to probably protect him. But if you're not so sure and you think there might be a guy that might not be protected on another team, You're going to hope that they do not protect them. When it comes to draft time, you'll select them in the round and bring them into your room and maybe let them fight for the starting job.
Yeah, so let's go over some of these big-name quarterbacks that are going to be featured in this draft. We have Aaron Murray, former Georgia college standout. He was a fifth-round pick for the Kansas City Chiefs, played as a backup, has all the talent in the world, but never really just got the opportunity. When you look at the team or the players that were on that team in front of him on the roster, really he never had a chance of getting almost any playing time. You also have Blake Sims from Alabama, two-time national champion. You have Christian Hackenberg, who played for the Jets as a second-round pick, but he was extremely raw and definitely he needed molding and never really got that chance. He was thrown to the Wolves, and he definitely had a underperforming NFL career, but he's somebody who could definitely use a second chance. We also have Scott Tolzien, who's been a backup for the Niners, the Green Bay Packers, Indianapolis Colts, Zach Mettenberger, who shined at times as a Tennessee Titan and was a backup for the Steelers. Matt Sims, former Jets backup, son of the Super Bowl champ Phil Sims. B.J. Daniels, who's played for the Seattle Seahawks, Houston Texans. Stephen Morris, who is a former backup for the Colts and backup for the Eagles. And then the one who's probably got the most playing time out of any of these quarterbacks is Josh Johnson, formerly of San Diego. He is a former Tampa Bay Buccaneer. He played for 8 other teams. He's actually won quite a few games in the NFL and has looked impressive as a backup and coming into a playing role at times when he's been called upon. So who out of that list stands out to you that could definitely make the jump back into the NFL one day?
I definitely love Christian Hackenberg's arm talent. As you said, he was thrown to the Wolves, even all the way back before the NFL when he was drafted. You have to go back almost to his freshman year at Penn State, and I believe he's the type of quarterback you're looking at in this type of system and this type of league that you could see. He's young. He's only 23 years of age, I believe. His footwork was terrible because of the pounding he took consistently. If you could get him in a room with somebody with a good quarterback coach, a good offensive coordinator, get him the live reps against game action, and you get him some confidence built back up, that might be the lottery ticket a lot of NFL teams are going to look for because they can sign him as basically a free agent. So I believe Christian Hackenberg is one of my favorite ones in this draft. Tommy Armstrong Jr. from Nebraska. He didn't really get a shot in the NFL. Big-time arm talent. He can scramble around. He can throw on the run. He did take a vicious shot in college that kind of shook him up a little bit, but I believe this type of opportunity, you might see him thrive in a spread-type offense or an RPO-based offense. And that's the other thing with this league is you might see a lot of the things you're just starting to see in the NFL really get based in here, like the RPOs, even the spread system. And it's not saying that it's not going to succeed at that level, but this might be your test ground to see and prove and get at it to put it there. Also, like you said, Aaron Murray, a late addition to the draft pool. He has all the arm talent in the world, make all the throws, and a back shoulder throw specialist. He can do a lot of things well as a quarterback that was a transfer from Purdue, Austin Appleby. He went to Florida for his senior year. Big-time arm talent. He's 6'5", can throw the ball into tight windows, can also has the athleticism to roll out of the pocket as well. You mentioned B.J. Daniels. He's starting to get a little bit on the older age, and he was asked to transition to receiver for Seattle. But if you put him in an offense that can be based similar to what Michael Vick ran, he has that type of athleticism. Now, is he going to be able to be a success story in the NFL? Not so sure because of his height, but he could thrive at this stage and be one of the faces of this league. Zach Mettenberger as well. I've always been a fan of him. Yes, he has terrible foot quickness. He can get rattled if he's consistently pressured. But that big-time arm and throwing vertical routes, it's going to bring a lot of people to the seats in this kind of foray. Also, another guy that could maybe use a second or third chance, Steven Garcia. He was a big, burly, and brawny type guy that would run at South Carolina, but he also had one of the best arms in that draft class that he came out of. But he had a lot of off-the-field issues. He finally has cleaned himself up. and I think he's starting to take himself seriously. He might be one of them type of guys that you see have a late career resurrection, almost like Jeff Garcia, late 20s. He's age 30, I believe. And then you have the small school guys like Patrick O'Brien from Catawba out in North Carolina. A lot of arm talent, just such a small school, hasn't got the exposure he needs. Or Philip Nelson from East Carolina. You watch his tape, he looks like gunslinger. He looks like a gunslinger. He likes slinging the ball around. He's confident but not cocky. And he believes that his skill position players will outperform any DB. So just a few names to maybe keep in mind as you're going forward.
I mean, every other sport has a minor league, has a developmental league, and why can't football have that? For the most part, it's been because of the punishment that players take. Well, these are players that aren't necessarily going to be getting reps during the NFL season. So the second chance that these guys are, the third chance, the fourth chance, like you said, that some of these players are going to get now that they are mature adults. Some of us take a little bit longer to mature. And then there's also going to be players that NFL vets. This could possibly open up the chance for comebacks, for players like in the now, not to compare, but like the big three in basketball. There's players that are getting their love for the game back, and this opens up that possibility as well. Do you see any NFL vets? Do you see a T.O. like vet possibly coming back and showing that they still have it just for the heck of it, or to possibly resurrect their career?
I could see it happening, especially if they're in their maybe early 30s to mid 30s, and maybe a lot of teams are writing them off. I could see them definitely coming to this league and say, if they put up standout performances, you can't ignore that. The NFL is starving for quarterbacks and skill position players at that as well. If you have NFL caliber talent, they want to sign you. And this league is going to give you the opportunity to show that. Maybe you had injury problems. Maybe you had off-the-field problems that maybe got out. They're not just going to let anybody in this league. There will be some vetting if there's off-the-field problems. But you're going to have a lot of players that maybe you would see 10 years ago, hang them up, maybe give it another try and a go of it here. And as you were talking about third and fourth chances, Jack, there's two guys I didn't even mention that I'd like to bring up here because it's such an awesome story. There's a gentleman by the name of Luis Perez. He was a quarterback from Texas A&M Commerce, a small school. But he didn't even play high school football. He tried to play in his high school league. He went on as a quarterback. His high school coach came to him and said, "Son, we need some players and bodies out at wide receiver." So he agreed to go out and play wide receiver. Then he had a change of heart altogether and gave up football in his high school years to become one of the best bowlers of his areas. And he actually has, I believe, over 11 perfect games bowled. So he was nobody to sneeze at. So he graduated high school. He moved on and he got the love of football back. So he went on to a JUCO college, or a junior college, talked to the head coach and said, "Coach, I wanted to play quarterback in high school." And he said, "Well, give me your huddle or any game tape you might have of you." And he goes, "Coach, I never played high school football." And the coach thought it was a joke. But he gave him an opportunity. He walked on at that junior college as the 9th or 10th quarterback on the depth chart. By the end of the season, he was the starter. Then he moved on and transferred to Texas A&M Commerce and wound up having a prolific career there. He stands 6'3", has a good lean build, but that's the type of player that they're going to be mining out in the Alliance, the ones that slip through the crack. As well as there's one other guy I'd like to highlight. His name is Marcus McDade. He actually played at Fresno State when Derek Carr was there. He was his backup. Tall guy, has a good build. He can really throw the ball deep. He needs some refinement with a lot of his quarterback skills, but he actually went from his college years all the way over to Germany to play in a football league. So this is actually a lot of worldwide effort and a worldwide focus of trying to accrue talent to be able to put a good type of effort on the field for NFL caliber talent or high college talent together.
Yep, these are a lot of raw, extremely athletically gifted people that are just a piece of clay and that never were given a chance to fully be molded. And like I said, this is just going to only increase the quality of football from the bottom up, and couldn't be more excited. So also, without further ado, Hall of Famer, Mr. Kurt Warner. How are you doing today, sir?
I am doing extremely well, and you?
I couldn't be better. Not expecting to be talking to the great Kurt Warner today, but I love talking football, so very honored to have you on. Thank you very, very much. So we just got the news that you are going to be the one covering the AAF draft. What can you tell us about this that's going to be different from any other draft? Because this is unprecedented. We've never seen this before. It's the very first minor league draft that we've ever had like this. Are there any details you can give us?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be exciting. I mean, obviously, everybody knows my background as a football fan and how I had to take a little different route to get to the NFL, and was always looking for opportunities, looking for a league such as the AAF. Obviously, I played in Europe and I played arena football, but just looking for an opportunity to play and showcase my skills and grow as a player. So I love what the AAF is doing and presenting these opportunities, and obviously to a lot of different players. But I'm a firm believer that quarterbacks need to play football, and being a backup somewhere is not anywhere close to the value of playing in games and experience different circumstances and learning and working your craft. So I'm excited about that part of the league. The draft is going to be a little bit unique because obviously it's set up just for quarterbacks. And something that the league has done is they've tried to connect different quarterbacks with a team that's in their region. So if you played college football, for instance, in the San Diego area, they kind of allot you to the San Diego team. And so what will be unique about this draft is that it's what they call a protect or pick draft, specifically in that first round, where if you have a quarterback that has been kind of allotted to you from your area or from an NFL team that's connected with one of the AAF teams, you have the option of, instead of picking, protecting that guy that's already kind of under contract or allotted to your team. And so, that's where, everything will kind of go into a pot with those that are allotted and those that are not allotted. And the draft will be set up where each team gets that opportunity to say, hey, we like one of our guys that we already have, so we don't have to worry about it. We can just protect him, and he'll be our first-round pick. Or we like some of the other guys that maybe either aren't allotted to another team or we're not sure another team will protect. So we'll choose to pick, and we'll kind of drop down and see if, if one of those guys is not protected, and then we'll take them with our first pick. So kind of unique and different. I love the fact that they're keeping guys in their region, and so, with it being the first year of the league, you'll have a bit of a following possibly from those different quarterbacks that played in those different regions.
Yeah, so just to go through the list, there's some exciting names here that I would love to still see play and get a second chance from. Zach Mettenberger, Matt Sims, BJ Daniels, Josh Johnson, who's been in the league for quite some time but has always been somewhat of a backup quarterback, has flashed throughout his 8 NFL teams. Aaron Murray, Blake Sims. Is there anybody that stands out on that list for you that you would like to see get a second chance in the NFL?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I mean, to me, I want them all to get a second chance. I want them all to have the opportunity to showcase their skills, whether it's guys that have been in the league a couple times and just haven't found the right fit, or even some younger guys that, maybe fell through the cracks a little bit like myself and never really got an opportunity to compete. So I'm all about it from every angle. But yeah, I mean, I think what I've realized in my time playing, whether it was before I got to the NFL or even in the NFL, so much of it comes down to timing and being in the right spot when you get that opportunity. And so, I'm hoping all these guys get that, next chance or another chance to really be able to compete. And, as I was saying, I think some of it is timing and being in the right spot. And then some of it, for me, when I got cut by Green Bay, I wasn't nearly the quarterback then that I became over the next couple years of playing and experiencing and getting more experience in the different areas that I needed them. So when I came back into the league later on with the Rams, I was a completely different guy, and I had honed my skills, and I was ready to really grab a hold of the opportunity and excel. And So many different ways to look at this, but I'm excited for all these guys because, there's been guys out there in the past that never really had an outlet, never really had another place that they could go and really showcase their skill set. And I think the AAF will be a great opportunity for that.
Do you think that there's going to be enough quality players in this league to sustain a profitable audience? Do you think that this is going to be the first minor league that can really get the NFL audience excited?
I hope so. And I think the first step in that is, to have the support of the NFL. And obviously when you've got these connections and teams that are allotted through, that used to be with an NFL team in that area, but I think that's always a key is it something that's supported by, the greatest sports league in our country? Because that's where I think it gets hard is when you compete against something like the NFL, it's hard to win. But, the reason that the NFL had NFL Europe was with the same idea to develop players. And once again, I point to the quarterback position because there was a number of guys that played in NFL Europe. I was with Jake Delhomme, Brad Johnson, guys that ended up playing in Super Bowls that needed that time and that experience to play football. And so, I don't know. I hope that it can survive. I hope that it can thrive, and I hope that it can be an outlet for guys that maybe fall through the cracks, but that are really, really good football players, and will present them with a chance to play and continue to build their craft, and then B, an opportunity to get noticed and given another opportunity in the NFL, because that's exactly where I was. When I went to NFL Europe, I told Al Luganbill, who was a coach at the time, I said, get me signed by an NFL team. In other words, give me one more chance. Give me one more shot with an NFL team, and I'll go play for you in Europe, because that's what it was all about to me, was a true opportunity to prove that I could play. But I got that opportunity in Europe because Al had seen me play in arena football, and I was out there playing, and that's really my hope for all these guys that will be playing in the AAF.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of these players just need the opportunity, the right system. Speaking of systems, do you see the AAF sticking to more of a pro-style offense or a pro-style system for the quarterbacks to be able to transition to the NFL? Or do you see that because of the NFL with the new Andy Reid look offense, the offense of the Rams, do you think that there will be a little bit more of the modern NFL, the college-style system still implicated inside the AAF to transition into what might be the NFL in a few years?
Yeah, I think you're going to see all of it. You look at the different coaches. Mike Martz, obviously, the director of the greatest show on turf, is coaching the team in San Diego. And so without question, he's going to be running a lot of that pro-style stuff, down the field type stuff that you're seeing with some of these high-flying teams in the NFL now. You've got some other coaches, that have more of a college background. And so I think you're going to see different things. One of the teams is going to run more of an air raid, which is synonymous with college, and you hear that a lot, Washington State and Coach Leach and those guys. So I think you're going to see a variety. I think you're going to see, teams that will model what you see in the NFL with certain teams. And so I think a lot of it comes down to the skill set of your players, where you think you can be successful. And then you kind of have to uncover, whatever you can uncover to be successful. And with the NFL kind of going that route, I definitely think it'll be something that's explored. And again, like college and the NFL, you're seeing a lot more of these younger quarterbacks or better running quarterbacks. So I think you'll see that too if you can find some guys that fit into that, some of the zone reads and some of those schemes that, that have helped teams to be successful and add another layer to things. So I don't think there's going to be any limit. When you talk and you hear from the different teams, I don't think it's, hey, we're all going to do it this way, or we're all going to be more prototypical to what you might call a pro system. I think that's changing every day, and I think the bottom line is you got to be able to fit your system to the skill of your players and find ways to be successful in that.
Now, with so many former players and people that have been associated with the NFL, do you see the NFL investing into this league in the future, maybe 2 or 3 years, if they can really get this off the ground and rolling? I mean, there's some quite a big names from Troy Polamalu and Andrew Luck's father is the commissioner of the league. Do you really see that this could actually be the number one minor league to the NFL and a partner or a sister league to the NFL one day?
Again, I don't want to say anything's impossible. I think there's a lot of potential there. I think the NFL will sit back and see how it progresses. But when you talk about those guys that have been connected with the NFL, I think you see the love. You see the number of players that want to continue to play. And if you can build it where you get some notoriety, you get the support of the NFL, you get some television support. People love the game, and they watch it at every level, and it will be a great alternative for guys that again are trying to continue their career and maybe a stepping stone to the NFL. So I wouldn't put anything past what this could be. I mean, again, going back to when I played arena football, there were a lot of talks with the NFL about investing in the Arena Football League and becoming more of a feeder system for some of these players and these teams. So I think since NFL Europe has kind of disbanded, I think there's always been talk about needing something like this, and specifically for the quarterback position, as I mentioned earlier. So I could see it definitely blossoming into something that wasn't counter means of improving players and getting guys ready for that next level.
Awesome. Speaking of internationally and the European League, do you see the AAF expanding internationally and possibly reaching out to other systems of athletes maybe coming from overseas?
Yeah, I have no idea. I think you start with step number one, and then you see where everything progresses from there. And so, as hard as it's been to establish these kinds of leagues in the past and sustain them, I'm sure the goal of the AAF right now is simply just to make this work and see what it can become here, and then you cross all those other bridges when you come to them.
I couldn't agree more. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you're a very busy man between everything you do. Is there any chance we see you out on the field once again in the AAF, possibly?
I don't think that's going to be the case. As much as I love, what the league is all about and what it's trying to do, I don't think that would be the route I would go. If I was going to play again, I may try it on the big stage. But those times are probably well past me. As much as I have those moments, and I was at the game the other night, the big game on Monday night, and the atmosphere and the excitement there kind of made me want to throw some pads on and give it one more shot. But I think my time is done from a playing standpoint.
Sorry, I had to ask. Just the fan in me had to ask. Well, I couldn't appreciate this more and thank you more. I know you're a big opponent in the community and everything you do with your First Thing First foundation. Is there anything you want to speak on that before I let you go?
Yeah, I appreciate that. We're all about what we can do and use our platform to be able to impact people. And so, still continuing to do things with the First Things First Foundation. I've got a new foundation in which we are creating community living facilities for young adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And the name of that new project is called Treasure House. TreasureHouse.org is the website, and we opened up our first Treasure House here in Arizona about 3 months ago, and looking to kind of figure out a model there and take them across the country. So still trying to do as much as we possibly can in the community amongst all the other things that I'm doing. But I feel very blessed to be in retirement and to have all the different opportunities that I've had. And again, one of the reasons why I'm excited about the AAF, because I know I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be at this place and have this platform were it not for some of those other developmental leagues or some of those other professional leagues that I was fortunate to get an opportunity to play in, and and then lead to that second chance in the NFL. And so just excited about that part of it, and blessed beyond measure, and hoping that this can be a platform for some other guys to do the same.
Awesome. Well, once again, I can't thank you enough for coming on. It's been a pleasure and an honor to speak with you about the AAF. Can't wait to see what that is, and I know us at Blitzalytics are going to be covering it, and are very excited to cover the league. So thank you for your time.
You bet. My pleasure.
All right.
Once again, I cannot thank you enough, sir, for coming on and joining us on the Blitz Breakdown. It was an honor and a privilege to get to talk to you. It was a pleasant surprise, and one of the biggest surprises and enjoyments of my football career so far. So thank you. And once again, his foundation is First Thing First. You can go on to kurtwarner.org and donate. For those that don't know, he has done tremendous work, especially with special needs children and special needs individuals all around the country and all around the world. Again, I can't thank you enough, sir, for all the public service you do and for coming on our podcast. It was a privilege. Thank you very much. So, any last words, Roy, before you go? Anything else that you would like to get out there about the AAF League? Anything else that excites you?
Just that the Alliance is a great mixture of young minds of college talent, NFL veterans, and coaches, executives, and I think it's going to be a stomping ground for the next crop of talent that's going to be put into that league. So definite thank you to even Charlie Ebersol and Bill Polian for arranging it, getting it together, and having the mindset to make it fan-oriented. I just wanted to say thank you to them, and if you haven't yet, join the Alliance.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't be more appreciative of you coming on and dropping as many knowledge bombs as possible. I even feel smarter after this podcast, and that's a rarity. So I appreciate you coming on, Roy. Please drop your Twitter handle for us.
At Preacher Boy Roy.
Thank you very much, sir. And that is all the time we have for the Blitz Breakdown. Thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned. We will be doing live coverage via YouTube on the QB draft, which is November 27th, 8 p.m. Eastern. So that is next Tuesday for those that are listening to this podcast. I would like to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Have a safe holiday, and see you next time. Great stuff, Roy. Great stuff, man.
Thank you.
Shout out to the Blitz team and Robert Robertson for putting this together. Thank you all.